I'm with Scott Humphrey, the CEO of the World Floor Covering Association, the WFCA. And Scott, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you, Dave?
I'm doing well. It's going into your almost one whole year here. Let me just ask you your take on what you've gotten yourself into here.
How much time do we have? I love what I'm doing. I love the organization. I love the board who has embraced a new vision of what we're going to do, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. Has it been different than I expected? Yes. I've been on the road much more than I thought I would, but I also understand the value of being out there and let people understand the person who represents the position. And in addition to that, letting people understand what our new vision is. You've got to get out there and communicate that face to face. We've got the Anaheim office. I'm out there monthly, but we also now have Dalton, and I'm able to get some meetings that I probably wouldn't have otherwise as people come through to meet with the big players in the flooring industry. It's been good. Different, not used to working with the board. I'm very blessed to have a great board who has been amazingly supportive. I also realize there's a honeymoon period with any job, and so I'm trying to do as much positive and good as I can to help them understand that the vote that they gave to me was well cast. Mm-hmm.
Talk about the new vision.
We have really decided that it's one thing to focus on everybody. You can give resources and tools and effort to meeting the needs of a manufacturer and a distributor and a carpet cleaner and inspectors and installers and retailers. But what's the central hub? What's the group that impacts all of that? And it really is, it's the retailer. Now, understand that our focus toward the retailer is to have a positive impact on all these others. We know where profitability comes in. We know that a seasoned professional retailer has a positive impact on installation, easier for distributors to work with, for manufacturers to deal with, carpet cleaners, inspectors, and all of that. And so our purpose statement now simply says that we exist to ensure the success and profitability of the specialty flooring retailer. And so we're putting a lot more of our effort toward developing resources and benefits that will have an impact on that group so that the benefit will permeate out to the rest.
Well, and it's a pivotal time. I read something just the other day, this was a major retailing person, thought that the mall, the B and C malls were in essence going to close, and the ones that would be left would be the A malls where the stores that appeal to the more affluent would be. And he says there's just too many retailers out there. And he said the reason for that was online, digital marketing. And I suspect that this is a pivotal time for floor covering and every kind of retailer.
It is, and you bring up several potential topics there. One of them is what's happening with online. I'll talk a little bit about the Marketplace Fairness Act in a moment if you'll give me an opportunity. But let me say that if you look at the rise of the TJ Maxx's and the other groups, you can see that those malls that used to exist, those outlet malls, probably don't have the impact that they once did. I do think the demographic of people that are shopping is changing as well. Some of that driven by the economy. I have a concern in our industry that we've lost a generation. I think there's a generation called the millennials who have gotten used to shopping in places outside of specialty flooring stores, and I think that's detrimental to our industry as a whole. And so we've got to find ways to drive them and to help them understand the value of shopping there where the expertise exists. But there's no doubt it's a pivotal time. It's kind of a paradigm shift time for the flooring industry. What direction are we going to go? Will we embrace the change? Will we create the change? Or are we going to fight to keep it as it is today?
Well, it's difficult, and you're broaching this topic at a very important time for floor covering retailers, in that we've seen the big box players gain share every year, and they're going to continue to do that and almost glean ideas from the independent to use against them.
Yeah, I've said for years, Dave, that even before I was in this position, that the big box stores sell more by accident than a lot of flooring retailers sell on purpose.
Yeah.
I don't think they set out to make the specialty flooring store their enemy in any sense, but I do think that the specialty flooring store has begun to realize that unless I learn to compete with that competitor, I'm in danger. I mean, you're right. If you cite information from the trade publications from back in July of this year, you would note that over the last 5 to 7 years, we've lost about 25% of the specialty flooring retailers in the United States. That's a scary thing. 12% less volume being sold as a percentage, roughly, in the specialty flooring stores. About 12% more being sold in the big box stores. If that trend continues for 10 more years, this industry has changed forever. That's a scary predicament to me. And I'm vested in the life of the specialty flooring store. Those people are very important to me. But they're also very important to the industry as a whole. And all those other parties that are members of the WFCA rely on the security and health of that hub. And so if we can do something to secure that position, to help with their professionalism and their profitability, to help them communicate better to the end consumer, then we'll have a positive impact on the whole industry.
And the mission of the WFCA is to do exactly that.
It's to do exactly that. And what's really powerful to me is I didn't come up with that mission. It's where I wanted to go, but when I got the executive committee in a room and I said, listen, what do you want our purpose to be? Let's define that purpose. Let's just quit shooting and trying to hope we have enough for everybody and throwing it out there, and if it sticks, it works. Because generally what happens is when you offer too much that's not targeted, people just don't use it at all. It's too frustrating to try to figure out what you need. Let's focus our effort, and they're the ones that came up. We had an outside facilitator come in, and they came up with a mission statement focused on the core that will impact the whole.
In your travels, you said you've been on the road a good deal since you've been here. April, was that?
Yeah, April 1st.
Okay.
Actually, just to clarify, it was the last week of March, so people don't say it was an April Fool's joke. But yeah, it's been about 8 months now, so.
Okay. You didn't think I would say that?
No, but if you thought it, I would read it on your face. I just want to make sure.
In your travels, and I know you've been many places and you've talked to many of the affiliate groups of the organization, what was your take on the way the retail community thought of the WFCA? What was the vision they had of the WFCA? I
think they understand the value that we once had. They understood who we were in the past. They understood what our title was. I think that, and this is primarily because of Chris's passing, but I think they were looking for what our vision was of the future. I think that for many people, and not just as they looked at the WFCA, I think as they looked at the industry, they saw an industry that was stagnant. And they were looking for something that would be different and that would make a difference in their business. And what I love about the WFCA, having come from a manufacturing background where I was lined up with one group, and that was the group that I was interacting with, I love the fact that we exist to help every retailer. So we don't, listen, if you're part of a manufacturing program, that's awesome, fantastic. We want to supplement what you get from them. If you're part of a buying group, then you've got some phenomenal resources, use them. But if they don't have something, look to us and let us fill the gap. Let us communicate to you about the things that the best retailers are doing that's making a difference. Somebody's succeeding. Why not learn from them, and why not you? Why not be one of the people that succeeds as we go forward? And so it's comforting to be in a place where, as I say often, we have no enemies. Other people may view us that way, but we exist for one purpose, and it's to help the independent specialty flooring retailer succeed, and by doing that, to have a positive impact on everybody throughout the industry.
It seems like it seems like this is a hungry time for retailers. I can remember back at Surfaces, I went to the education day. It was packed. And there was standing room only in some of those rooms, which tells me people are hungry for information, for new ideas, et cetera. So, it's a good time to hit the ground with these ideas.
It is, and we were at one of the manufacturing groups show last week, and same thing. You're right. People standing in line couldn't wait to get into the educational shows. Yeah. They wanted to be a part of what was going on there. And we hear people all the time. We just got off a conference call prior to meeting with you where we were talking to some people on our membership committee, and we were asking them, what can we do? And one of them said, I think people are looking for an independent voice to offer something out there that they know is unbiased. And, well, if they need that, then we exist to fulfill that purpose. We're developing online training that will meet the needs of people that are looking at competing with their competition, whether that be the big box store or whether it simply is competing with themselves because of the lack of a level of professionalism, because they have simply been riding the wave through this dull period over the last 8 years. And you cannot succeed going forward based on what made success in the past. You've got to be willing to do something. I get to tell you, one of the challenges of this industry, Dave, is we got a lot of people that they try to work harder rather than working smarter when it comes to the future. And so what you saw was a lot of retailers that worked more hours than they had ever worked, and they worked harder than they'd ever worked, and their families suffered, and their friendships suffered, and their churches suffered, and their communities suffered, and yet they were no more profitable. As a matter of fact, much less profitable than they had been in the past. And yet you find other retailers who actually did not have to work as hard because they worked differently.
Yeah.
They invested in advertising in different ways to reach a demographic that they had not reached before. They invested in marketing resources that were available from manufacturing groups and buying groups, and they began to target their demographic, and they got the impact, but they took a risk. And change is never, ever a comfortable thing. Years ago, I may have shared this before, David, and if I did, I apologize, but I saw a magazine front from a magazine called Fast Company, and it was called Change or Die. It was the cover on the magazine, and it was talking about how difficult it is for us to change. And I thought it was going to be talking about industries that don't change, die, because it's a business-focused magazine. But in reality, it was talking about people that don't change, die. And what it did is it researched people that had open heart surgery and found that 90% of them within 2 years are back to living the lifestyle that caused them to have open heart surgery. Now, they knew if they went back to that lifestyle, they would die. But it's all they knew. And so they fell back into the rut. And I think what we've got to be careful of, especially in this time where we're seeing some positive things in the economy, is focusing forward, but focusing differently. We've got to be able to tap into resources we haven't tapped into before.
It seems to me that you have a lot of people on your board who are ones that have taken these steps forward, tried the different things, and have the vision.
Oh,
that's very good.
And it's one of the greatest blessings for me in this job is to be able to interact with the Harold Chapmans and the Janice Cliftons and the Aaron Perners. I could mention numerous people, not just on our executive committee, but throughout our board, that are willing to think outside the box. And they don't just do it for themselves. They serve on our board because they want to share it with the industry. And that's the comforting thing about the WFCA is we exist for the success of the industry as a whole.
I think a lot of them did that because they sensed the new direction of this organization.
There are some that join because of that. There are some that join because of a desperation to see an industry that was falling spirally down and losing market share turn it around and make a difference. And, whatever the reason they join, I'm thankful they're there. One of the things that I love, Dave, is spending time with the past presidents and the past chairmen, because the brilliance of keeping me from making the same mistake again because they've been there. And so there may be something that we tried back there that didn't work, and we may be wanting to try it again, and they say, well, listen, you can try it again because it might work now, but don't do it this way. Here's the mistake we made. And so it's just having the knowledge that's available through that board. I think at one point I added up the numbers of years of experience in the industry. It was well over 300 years
Very interesting.
on our board, and to be able to tap into that, that's a powerful resource.